was younger, I was shorter. I had visions. My sister and I grew up in New York City, and we were superheroes. And we had visions of using our powers for good. And it was not the usual vision, so we combined things, attributes from different superheroes or cool things to make up our new superhero. I was Wonder Woman, a combination of Wonder Woman and Captain Kirk without a head. And to balance that off, I was a set designer for hip-hop videos for MTV. Sort of like a VJ Wonder Kirk. Well, that really didn't matter to my parents. They would say in the middle of it all, okay, eat your vegetables, be thankful and enjoy it, because there are people who have much less than you. In the meantime, half of you probably don't know what this is, but the other half do. My son actually asked me yesterday, what's a VJ? But as I grew up and went to school and had an education and traveled and got to do really cool things, meet really cool people from all walks of life, I started to notice some patterns, which is the thing that brought me to realize that we have always been, we will always be, and we will continue to be more so interconnected. So that's what brought me here, actually, to Dubai. The power to know. And this is not only about the technology that enables us to do that. We've heard a lot of that today. I'm incredibly humbled by what we've heard from the students and our adult speakers today. We have that power to know. We have the technology, whether big or very small, to know what that is. And I'm working now with IBM to work on our smarter vision. That includes smarter transportation, smarter education, smarter food, beef, where's the beef, where's the, all of that. Where's not the beef, where's the water? What's the water? Are we managing that in a more intelligent way? And I'm here for smarter cities, which is really the convergence of all of that together. Smarter cities is what really excites me, because the potential for us to address and tackle those problems in centers of commerce and creativity and collaboration and culture, you can expand that in exponential ways. You may have seen that before. Underpinning that vision in our smarter cities sort of approach is that the world is complex. And the world is increasingly not only complex, but also in the interconnections and the technological innovations that we have made, the information, which I find particularly sexy, is creating new opportunities for us to expand our capacity to adapt and change, to make better choices. I don't know about World of Warcraft, but apparently some people think it's cool. But it also expands our ability, our collective brain, to be used more and use our powers for good and not evil in different ways. Here's what I think is really interesting. Even as all of this innovation is being realized, tapped into, created, used, or perhaps not used, it's the information. In the past, there have been technologies that have been created so that you can get more and more and more out of. But has the information really been leveraged to actually learn, and learn from the uses of those technologies and apply them in different ways in the future? Today, we are able, as people, to collect data from almost anything. Cities, there are 30 billion RFID tags embedded in our devices. This is an old number. There are over 1 billion camera phones, of which some of you may have a couple here, that can document things, not just pictures of friends and family and experiences, but also document accidents and crimes, situations, context. And this is actually a really big number. 15 petabytes of information are created right now, and this is 8 times more than what is in US libraries today, and that is an old number. There actually is another level of big, and that's called the exabyte. We happen to know more. And why? Let's just take a look at cities and the demographics. In the 1990s, there were about 7% of the world's population that lived in the cities, 7 to 10%. Fast forward to 2007, about 50%. Fast forward to 2050, almost 75%. That's the world's population. Let's look at the demographics. There's about 7 billion people in the world today, of which many of the young are in this part of the world. That creates, and oh, by the way, there was about 1 billion people that entered the middle class just last year, creating greater demands, having greater expectations on the producers of things, the producers of goods and services, and cities. That also presents an opportunity, however, an opportunity for us to leverage that technology, use that technology to actually take and capitalize information in new different ways. Part of that is really to provide information to communities, to people in new and different ways so that they can participate and collaborate. To look at the city and the city to be able to tell us how it's feeling well before a problem becomes a crisis. The technologies that we can use today are able to cut across different systems, different or traditional verticals or industry verticals or disciplines to present new ways of looking at things, to challenge us to ask questions in different ways. We can look at it and reveal how these various systems affect each other, not just within a vertical like smarter government, or not just within transportation, or not just within the health, but how they affect each other. And these are questions that researchers and scientists love. Why not us, who are not? Luckily, I work at IBM, who I'm not, I must make a confession, I am not a deep technologist, but colleagues of mine within IBM are, and together we bring different disciplines to look at problems and challenges and opportunities differently, to tackle them differently. Part of it is to be able to enable people to know the impact of the choices that they make, or that they're about to make, so that choices are better, more responsible, faster, or maybe slower. To build a sense of place and community. This is one example of a water bill. That's a graphic that's embedded in a water bill, letting people know just how much they've consumed. It was shocking to see, this is in Dubuque, it was shocking for them to see just how much water they consumed. And just by knowing that consumption rate, the behaviors changed. There's a little bit of competition actually in that little city, where they said, how can we find better ways to better manage and use less our water? So I find the information a bit sexy. And because it's more social, we have an ability to exchange, share, collaborate, and create new information in the process. So that's where it gets really, really interesting. Not just about the technologies and the roles they have to accelerate, to amplify, but also the role of information and the responsibilities that we have to actually use it, to see things differently, to discover things, to measure, to evaluate, to tell the story. So really, being connected makes me ask the question, does that really, really make us smarter? Does the power of having, the power of knowing really make us smarter, really make us more wise? That brings me back to a request that I got from Zubi here in DAA. She said, well, why don't you talk about environmental wellness? And I said, what the heck is that? I think I know what that means. I have a feeling that I know what that means, but let me check around with people who are way smarter than I am to see what that is. And I discovered that the things that jumped out at me were principles embedded in these definitions. And you may think of it as something different. But the words that came out to me were health, learning, contributing, active stewardship, and harmony. These really are the principles of environmental or wellness itself. But how do you put that into practice? You've got to put it in something that people, everyone could relate to. So what better way than to look at our most precious resource called water? Why? Because there is absolutely no substitute for it. Something that takes a lot of water are other things as well. Other resource systems use and depend on water fundamentally to make that occur. So that kind of essential functioning demands a little closer look at how it's used, how it works, how it's managed, and most of all, how it's sustained. Did you know that only 3% of the world's water is fresh? Here in the UAE, the consumption rate is about 50% of the 90 billion cubic meters of the country's aquifers every year. It gets replenished through rains, rivers, other things, but scientists project that in 55 years that will be depleted if things don't change. Why? Because the consumption is just simply going up. In the other parts of the world, some say, well, what about the drinking water? Did you know that 2% of the world's drinking water, water that's put to drinking standards, is consumed? The other 98% is not consumed, and it's being used in things like filling up toilets. So it's sort of a gross statistics, but you can actually drink from your toilet, of course, before it's used. Right? So, yet at the same time, it takes about 8 liters to flush it. And even more alarming, 1 in 4 people in the world don't have access to clean drinking water. By 2025, it'll be 1 in 3. This kind of resource inequity, which many of the speakers talked about this morning, is exacerbated in a resource of ours that has absolutely no alternative. And it takes a lot of water to make things. It takes a lot of water to make a pound of beef. We heard that earlier. It takes a lot of water to make a pair of jeans. It takes a lot of water to build a car. It takes a lot of water to produce 1 unit of energy and back. So what's even more important are the questions that we ask. They already point to the responsibilities. Certainly people might think it's a right, but they point to the responsibilities that we have, certainly, to enjoy those rights, to apply those rights, to use them or to not. Do you know how much water costs? Do we know how much water costs, really? How long is that going to last? How do the ways that I use it, how I behave, contribute to the problem or the solution? What can I do? So now what? I mean, environmental wellness, I thought these challenges are so big and so complex, what can I do? That's me, by the way, VJ Wonderkirk. Some will say, well, it's impossible. These challenges are so complex. And I say, really? They were easy enough for us to create. If someone had said to you, your loved one is dying and you can't do anything about it, would you do nothing? I say no. I say, we have that power to know right now. We need to use that power to be able to make those better choices so that we stop it. Especially when it comes to someone you love, or something that is so big and important, so fundamental to our existence, that it demands my respect and active stewardship. So back to wellness and smart and what I've learned in this opportunity to participate here. I'm still learning. And the principles that underpin wellness are things like having a respect for these things, for others, and awareness. To learn, to ask questions, to share ideas, to understand the impact of our interactions, develop good habits. Develop good habits early. I've certainly learned a lot. And when our baby is born, he too will also be learning. Live in harmony, and that means play an active role. Get involved in contributing to the health of the planet. So what have I learned? I've learned that in continuing this journey of progress, with this opportunity to speak with you guys, that I can make a difference. I can make a difference just by simply practicing wellness in my own life, and then applying and sharing that with others in the workplace, in the home, in other social contexts, so that when I, who has the power to know, when we have that power to know, and in using VJ Wonderkirk's powers for good rather than evil or worse, nothing that maybe, just maybe, I'm a little wiser today and more so tomorrow than I was yesterday. Thank you.